I never thought inheritance could taste like vindication. There I was, standing in the marble lobby of the Belmond Mount Nelson Hotel in Cape Town, wearing the same black thrift store dress I'd worn to 3 family events in a row, watching my perfectly polished family sip champagne in their coordinated resort wear. My 8-year-old daughter Maya pressed against my side, her small hand finding mine as a man in an expensive suit opened an envelope that was about to change everything. "Ladies and gentlemen," the lawyer said, his voice cutting through the murmur of confused whispers, "we're here to execute the final will and testament of Robert James Mitchell." That's when I saw my sister Claire's face change. The confident smile she'd worn since we arrived, the one that said, "I still can't believe you actually showed up," flickered like a candle in wind. She glanced at our mother, who was gripping her wine glass so tightly her knuckles had gone white. They had no idea what was coming. Neither did I. "My name is Sarah Mitchell and I'm 32 years old. I'm a single mom, a freelance writer, and according to my family, the one who never got it together. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that doesn't have a homeowners association. I drive a Honda Civic that's older than some of my freelance clients. I shop at thrift stores not because it's trendy, but because it's what I can afford. My sister Claire is everything I'm not. She's 28, married to a software engineer named Brad, and they live in a house that looks like it was pulled from a Pinterest board. She drives a Range Rover that's newer than my laptop. Her kids, Emma 6 and Jake 4, have never eaten a meal that wasn't organic or worn clothes that didn't come from Nordstrom. The difference between us isn't just financial. It's philosophical. Claire believes in appearances, in keeping up, in making sure everyone knows you're winning. I believe in getting by, in making do, in teaching my daughter that worth isn't measured by what you own. But in my family, that philosophy makes me the cautionary tale. I've heard the whispers. At birthday parties, when I'm in the kitchen washing dishes because I can't afford a gift expensive enough to match everyone else's. At holiday dinners, when I bring a homemade dessert instead of something from the fancy bakery. At family gatherings, when I excuse myself to take work calls because freelance writing doesn't respect family time. "She's the family disappointment," Claire would say, never to my face but always loud enough for me to hear. "The one who made all the wrong choices." Wrong choices. Like getting pregnant at 23 with a man who disappeared the moment he heard the word baby. Like dropping out of graduate school to raise Maya alone. Like choosing to work from home so I could be there for school pickups and sick days and bedtime stories. To them, these weren't sacrifices. They were failures. So when Claire started planning what she called the family vacation of a lifetime last spring, I wasn't surprised that my phone never rang. She posted about it constantly on social media. Screenshots of 5-star resort websites, photos of luxury luggage sets, videos of her kids getting their first passports. The destination was Cape Town, South Africa. 10 days at the Belmond Mount Nelson Hotel, complete with private tours, wine tastings, and a chartered yacht. The estimated cost per person was more than I make in 3 months. What I was surprised by was the forwarded message from my mother. It arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was working on a client article about sustainable fashion. The subject line read, "Family Trip Update." The message was clearly meant for Claire, not me. "Everyone's booked. Can't wait to see all the grandkids on the beach. The suite overlooking Table Mountain is going to be perfect for photos. Except, well, you know. 2 words that carried the weight of 32 years of being the family afterthought. I stared at that message for 20 minutes. Then I called my mother. "Mom, I got your message about the trip." "Oh, honey, that wasn't meant for you. Claire must have had you on the wrong group text. But you mentioned all the grandkids. Maya's your granddaughter too." There was a pause. A long one. Then, "Sarah, it's not personal. It's just not your season. You wouldn't want to feel left out by the lifestyle." Left out by the lifestyle. As if my financial situation was a temporary inconvenience. Something I could fix with the right attitude and a better budgeting app. "What does that mean, Mom?" "It means this trip is expensive. It means everyone's staying in suites that cost more per night than your rent. It means there will be activities you can't afford, restaurants you can't afford, shopping you can't afford. I'm trying to protect you from embarrassment." Embarrassment. The family disappointment was being protected from embarrassment. And Maya? Maya's a sweet girl, but she's not. She wouldn't understand the dynamic. The other kids are used to a certain standard. I hung up. Not dramatically, not with a slam or a curse word. I just ended the call and sat in my kitchen, staring at my laptop screen where an article about sustainable fashion waited to be finished. The hardest part wasn't being excluded. I'd been excluded before. Birthday parties I couldn't afford to attend, holidays I wasn't invited to, family photos I wasn't asked to be in. I'd learned to live with being the one who didn't fit. The hardest part was watching it happen to Maya. She noticed things. 8-year-olds always do. She noticed when her cousins Emma and Jake got matching pink passport holders and she didn't. She noticed when Emma accidentally posted the family's travel itinerary on Instagram and our names weren't on it. She noticed when Grandma started doing trip countdown posts on Facebook and never mentioned her. 3 weeks before the trip, she came to me with questions I couldn't answer. "Mommy, why didn't we get passport holders?" "Because we're not going on the trip, sweetheart." "But we're family." "Yes, we are." "Then why aren't we going?" I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her grandmother thinks she's not good enough for a family vacation? How do you tell a child that her existence is seen as an inconvenience by people who are supposed to love her unconditionally? "Sometimes families do things in small groups," I said finally. "This is just one trip." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Are we still part of the family?" That question hit me like a physical blow. My daughter, who had never done anything wrong, who brought homemade cards to every birthday party and helped me bake cookies for every family gathering, was wondering if she belonged. "Yes," I said, pulling her into my lap. "We are absolutely still part of the family." But even as I said it, I wondered if I was lying. My father would have hated this. Robert James Mitchell was a quiet man in a family of loud voices. He owned a small construction company and spent most of his free time reading in his study or working in his garden. He never said much, but when he spoke it mattered. When I was 24 and pregnant with Maya, scared and alone after her father disappeared, Dad was the one who showed up. Not with lectures or disappointed sighs, but with a crib he'd built by hand and a promise that Maya would never want for anything while he was alive. When I struggled to find work as a new mom, he was the one who helped me set up my freelance writing business. He bought me my first laptop, helped me build a website, and told every contractor he knew that his daughter was the best writer in the city. When I came home crying from a failed job interview, defeated and convinced I was everything my family said I was, he sat me down in his study and said something I've never forgotten. "The ones they laugh at now are the ones who'll own the table later. Don't break your back trying to sit with people who'll need your chair someday." He passed away last year. Cancer. Quick and cruel and final. Claire gave a speech at his funeral. She talked about legacy and success and building something that lasts. She mentioned his business, his work ethic, his dedication to family. She talked for 15 minutes about what he meant to all of us. She didn't say my name once. 3 days before my family's flight to Cape Town, I was working on a client project when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" "Yes." "This is Thomas Brennan from Brennan and Associates. I'm calling about your father's estate." My stomach dropped. We'd settled Dad's estate months ago. At least I thought we had. Mom had handled everything, which made sense since she was the executor. I'd received a small inheritance, enough to cover Maya's school supplies and put a little away for emergencies. "I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan, but I think there's been a mistake. The estate was settled last year." "Actually, no. Your father's will was structured as a delayed execution for exactly 1 year after his passing. Today's the date. He left specific instructions to read it to the whole family." "I don't understand." "Your father created what's called a delayed codicil. It's unusual but legal. He wanted exactly 1 year to pass before his true final wishes were revealed. The will that was read at his funeral was preliminary." My heart was racing. What does that mean? "It means there's another will. And he was very specific that it be read while the whole family is together." I thought about my family, currently boarding a plane to South Africa. They're on vacation. I wasn't invited. There was a pause. "That's interesting. Your father was very specific about the timing. He knew about this trip." "How?" "He planned it." 2 days later my phone rang again. This time it was Claire. "Sarah? Why didn't you tell us you were coming to Cape Town?" I was sitting in my kitchen staring at a plane ticket that had appeared in my email that morning. First class. A reservation at the Belmond Mount Nelson Hotel. A note from Thomas Brennan explaining that all expenses had been prepaid from my father's estate. Because I wasn't invited, I said. Well, you are now. The lawyer said you have to be here for some legal thing about Dad's will. But just, don't make it weird, okay? This is supposed to be a celebration. I'll try to contain my disappointment, I said. She missed the sarcasm entirely. Great. Oh, and Sarah? Maybe try to dress appropriately. This is a nice hotel. Maya had never been on a plane before. She pressed her face to the window during takeoff, gasping at the clouds and pointing out landmarks she recognized from her geography books. The flight attendant in first class brought her extra cookies and a pair of plastic wings. Are we really going to Africa, Mommy? We really are. Are we going to see lions? Maybe. Are we going to stay in a fancy hotel? Very fancy. She was quiet for a moment. Then, why did we get invited at the last minute? I looked down at her, this brilliant little girl who noticed everything and asked the questions that mattered. Sometimes grown-ups make complicated plans, I said. Is that why Grandma didn't want us to come before? I couldn't lie to her. Yes. But we're going now. Yes. She leaned against me, satisfied. I think Grandpa would have wanted us to come. Out of the mouths of babes. The Belmond Mount Nelson Hotel was everything the photos had promised. Pink colonial architecture surrounded by manicured gardens, with Table Mountain rising behind it like a painted backdrop. Maya gripped my hand as we walked through the lobby, her eyes wide at the marble floors and crystal chandeliers. My family was having cocktails on the terrace. I saw them before they saw us. Claire and Brad laughing at something on her phone, Emma and Jake running between the tables, my mother holding court with a glass of wine that caught the afternoon light. They looked perfect. Like a magazine spread about successful families on vacation. Even their casual clothes were coordinated, khaki shorts and white linen shirts, like they'd planned their outfits together. Then Claire looked up and saw me. Her smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, waving us over with enthusiasm that felt rehearsed. Sarah, you made it. Maya hung back, suddenly shy. These people were her family, but they felt like strangers. Hi everyone, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My mother stood up, air kissing my cheek without actually touching me. You look well, she said, which was her polite way of saying I looked exactly like what I was. A single mom who had packed everything she owned into a carry-on bag. Maya's gotten so big, Brad said, crouching down to her level. Do you remember me? She nodded, but she didn't let go of my hand. Emma and Jake ran over, chattering about the pool and the room service and the penguins they were going to see tomorrow. Maya listened politely, but I could see her processing the differences. Their easy confidence, their casual mentions of things that cost more than our monthly groceries. Where's the lawyer? I asked. He'll be here soon, Claire said. Something about Dad's will. I have no idea what that's about. I caught my mother's eye. She looked away quickly, but not before I saw something there. Worry maybe. Or guilt. Thomas Brennan arrived at 6 o'clock, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing the kind of suit that whispered money. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Thank you all for being here, he said, settling into a chair that a hotel staff member had brought to the terrace. I know this is unusual, but your father, Robert, was very specific about his wishes. He opened his briefcase and withdrew a sealed envelope. Heavy paper. My father's familiar handwriting on the front. To be opened 1 year after my death in the presence of my entire family. Before I read this, Thomas said, I want you to know that everything in this document is legal and binding. Your father worked with me for months to ensure that his wishes would be carried out exactly as he intended. Claire shifted in her seat. What kind of wishes? Let me read it to you. He broke the seal and unfolded several pages of typed text. The terrace had gone quiet except for the sound of birds in the garden and the distant murmur of other hotel guests. To my beloved family, he began, if you are hearing this, it means I have been gone for exactly 1 year, and you are all together as I requested. I have some things to say. My mother set down her wine glass with a sharp clink. To my wife Judith, you have been my partner for 34 years. You helped me build a business and a life. And I know you will continue to manage both with the same strength you've always shown. You have the house, the retirement accounts, and enough to live comfortably for the rest of your days. I trust you will use these gifts wisely. Mom nodded, relaxing slightly. This was what she'd expected. To my daughter Claire, You have always been focused on success, on image, on making sure everyone knows you are winning. These are not necessarily bad qualities, but they have made you hard in ways that worry me. You have your career, your husband, your beautiful children. You have everything you need to be happy. I hope you will learn to be satisfied with what you have instead of always reaching for more. You will receive the car, my Rolex, and the brokerage account. Claire's face had gone pale. What does that mean? Thomas continued reading. To my daughter Sarah, you have always felt like you were on the outside looking in. You have always believed that you were not good enough, not successful enough, not worthy enough. I need you to know that you are wrong. I felt Maya's hand tighten in mine. You showed up when no one invited you. You stayed standing when everyone else looked away. When they called you a burden, you raised a child with grace and strength. When they whispered about your failures, you turned those failures into lessons. When they excluded you from their perfect pictures, you created your own imperfect, beautiful life. The words hit me like a physical force. I could hear my father's voice in them, see his face as he might have said them. Sarah, you are not the family disappointment. You are the family's greatest success. You are the one who gives without expecting anything in return. You are the one who shows up even when it's hard. You are the one who loves without conditions. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face in front of my family for the first time in years. And so to Sarah I leave the following. The beach house in Camps Bay that I purchased 6 months ago. The writing retreat fund that I established in your name. The family trust that will ensure Maya's education and future. And the controlling shares of Mitchell Construction, the company I built with my own hands. Gasps. Actual gasps. Claire's mouth fell open. My mother's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the terrace stones. I leave these things to Sarah because she understands what I tried to teach all of you. That success is not about what you have, but about who you become. That wealth is not about money but about richness of spirit. That family is not about blood, but about showing up for each other when it matters. Thomas looked up from the pages. There's more. Sarah, I know you are probably wondering why I kept this from you. Why I let you struggle. Why I didn't tell you about the business, about the investments, about the plans I had made for your future. The answer is simple. I wanted you to become the person you are without these things. I wanted you to develop your strength, your independence, your unshakable sense of self. I wanted you to know that you are enough, just as you are. He folded the papers carefully. That concludes the reading. Sarah, there are additional documents that detail the specifics of your inheritance. We can review those privately later. The silence stretched on forever. Maya looked up at me, her eyes wide with questions I couldn't answer yet. Finally, Claire spoke. This is a mistake. I'm afraid it's not, Thomas said gently. Everything has been verified multiple times. Your father was very thorough. But she's... Claire gestured at me, her voice rising. She's never shown any interest in the business. She doesn't know anything about construction. She can't handle this kind of responsibility. Your father believed otherwise. My mother finally found her voice. How much? She asked quietly. I'm not at liberty to discuss specific figures, Thomas said. But I can tell you that Mitchell Construction is a very successful company. The beach house is worth approximately 3 million rand. The trust fund is substantial. Claire stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. She's been living in a rental apartment, working freelance gigs, barely making ends meet. And now she's just... What? An heiress. Claire, I said quietly. No. She whirled around to face me. You don't get to just sit there and act humble. You don't get to pretend you didn't know about this. You and Dad must have planned this together. You must have manipulated him. That's enough. The voice was mine, but it sounded different. Stronger. Dad made his own choices. Just like you make yours. My choices? My choices. She laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. I chose to build a life. I chose to marry someone stable. I chose to give my children everything they need. I chose to be successful instead of just scraping by and calling it noble. You chose to exclude your niece from a family vacation because you were embarrassed by where she lives. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Claire's face went red. That's not, we weren't. You were. You've been embarrassed by me for years. By my apartment, my car, my job, my life. You've been treating Maya like she's somehow less than Emma and Jake because she doesn't have the right clothes or the right opportunities. You've been making both of us feel like we don't belong in this family. Because you don't. The words exploded out of her. You don't belong at five-star hotels. You don't belong at fancy dinners. You don't belong in our world, Sarah. You never have. You're right, I said, standing up. I don't belong in your world. But it turns out I don't need to. Because I have my own. The next morning, Thomas picked Maya and me up in a rental car and drove us to Camps Bay. The beach house was a 10-minute drive from the hotel, nestled into the hillside with a view of the Atlantic Ocean that took my breath away. It was beautiful in a way that was completely different from the hotel's polished perfection. Natural wood and stone floor-to-ceiling windows, a deck that seemed to float above the waves. There were bookshelves built into every wall, a writing desk facing the water, and a kitchen that opened onto a garden filled with local plants. Your father bought this specifically for you, Thomas explained as we walked through the rooms. He said every writer needs a place to think. Maya ran onto the deck, her arms spread wide to catch the ocean breeze. Mommy, look. You can see penguins. There were penguins on the beach below, waddling along the sand like they owned the place. There's something else, Thomas said, handing me a folder. Your father left you these. Inside were printed emails. Between him and me dating back years. Messages I'd sent him about my work, about Maya, about the struggles and small victories of our daily life. He'd saved them all. At the bottom of the folder was a note in his handwriting. For Maya, when she's old enough to understand, your mother is the strongest person I know. She gave up everything to give you everything. Never forget that. I sat down on the deck holding the folder and cried. Not from sadness but from relief. My father had seen me. He had understood. He had been proud. That evening my family came to the beach house. Not for dinner, not for a celebration, but for what Claire called a family meeting. She stood in the living room, arms crossed, while my mother sat stiffly on the couch and Brad tried to keep Emma and Jake entertained on the deck. Maya was in her room, reading a book we'd bought at the hotel gift shop. We need to talk, Claire said. About what? About this. She gestured around the room. About Dad's will. About what you're planning to do. I'm planning to honor his wishes. His wishes were based on incomplete information. He didn't know about your debt, your credit score, your complete lack of business experience. He didn't know that you can't handle this kind of responsibility. And you do. I work in finance, Sarah. I understand money. I understand business. I understand what it takes to manage assets like this. And you think I don't? I think you're in over your head. I think you're going to make mistakes that will cost everyone in this family. I think Dad was trying to be kind, but he was also being naive. I looked at my mother, who had been silent through this exchange. What do you think, Mom? She cleared her throat. I think your father loved you very much. I also think he may have overestimated your abilities. My abilities to what? To handle wealth responsibly. To make good decisions. To not let this go to your head. Like it's gone to yours? The question hung in the air. My mother's face tightened. I have never been irresponsible with money. No, but you've been irresponsible with people. Maya. With me. You've spent years making us feel like we weren't good enough for this family, and now you're upset because Dad disagreed with you. That's exactly what this is about. You're not angry because you think I can't handle the inheritance. You're angry because receiving it proves that Dad saw value in me that you couldn't see. Claire stepped forward. Don't make this about emotions. This is about practical reality. You live in a rental apartment. You drive a 15-year-old car. You shop at thrift stores. You have no idea how to manage this kind of wealth. You're right, I said. I don't know how to manage this kind of wealth. But I know how to manage my life. I know how to take care of my daughter. I know how to work hard and be grateful and show up for people who need me. And apparently that's what Dad thought mattered. It's not enough. It was enough for him. That night, after everyone had gone back to the hotel, I sat on the deck with a glass of wine and my laptop. The ocean was dark except for the reflection of the moon, and I could hear the sound of waves against the rocks below. I started typing. Dear Dad, I wish you were here to explain this to me. I wish you could tell me what you want me to do with all of this. I wish you could help me understand why you kept it secret for so long. But I think I'm starting to figure it out. You didn't want me to have this money so I could prove something to Claire or Mom or anyone else. You wanted me to have it so I could stop proving myself to everyone. You wanted me to have the freedom to be exactly who I am without apologizing for it. You wanted Maya to grow up knowing that she comes from strength, not from struggle. You wanted her to have choices that I didn't have. And you wanted me to understand that I was never the family disappointment. I was the family foundation. I get it now. I finally get it. I'm not going to use this inheritance to change who I am. I'm going to use it to become more of who I am. I'm going to write the books I've always wanted to write. I'm going to travel with Maya and show her the world. I'm going to support other single moms who are trying to build something from nothing. And I'm going to set boundaries with people who think love should be conditional. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for giving me permission to take up space in this family. I love you. I miss you. I won't let you down. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The next morning, Claire called my room at the hotel. We're leaving, she said without preamble. The vacation isn't over until Tuesday. It's over for us. Brad found us a flight home tonight. I wasn't surprised. What about Mom? She's staying. She says she wants to process things. And you? There was a long pause. I can't be around this right now. I can't pretend to be happy for you when I don't understand how this happened. You could try. I don't know how. I thought about my father's words about choosing to give without expecting anything in return. I'm sorry you're hurting, Claire. I really am. But I'm not going to apologize for Dad's choices. I know. Her voice was quiet now, tired. I need time. Take all the time you need. But don't take it out on Maya. She didn't ask for any of this. I wouldn't. You already have. You've been taking it out on her for years. She hung up. We stayed in Cape Town for the rest of the week. Maya and I visited the penguins at Boulders Beach, rode the cable car up Table Mountain, and spent hours on the deck of the beach house, reading and writing and learning to be still. On our last night, my mother came to dinner. She looked older somehow, like the week had taken something out of her. I owe you an apology, she said after Maya had gone to bed. You don't owe me anything. I do. I've been unfair to you. For years. I let my own fears about money and status affect how I treated you and Maya. I convinced myself I was protecting you, but I was really protecting myself. From what? From admitting that you were stronger than I was. That you were handling single motherhood better than I handled marriage. That you were raising Maya to be kinder and more genuine than I raised my own daughters. It was the first time she'd called Maya her granddaughter without qualification. I don't need you to admit anything, Mom. I just need you to treat Maya like she belongs. She does belong. He always has. I forgot. Don't forget again. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Your father would be proud of you. I know. Flying home was different than flying to Cape Town. Maya slept against my shoulder, exhausted from a week of new experiences and big emotions. I stared out the window at the clouds and thought about what came next. I had a business to learn, a house to maintain, a trust fund to manage. I had decisions to make about Maya's education, about our future, about how to use this unexpected gift responsibly. But mostly I had a life to live. The same life I'd been living, just with more resources and fewer apologies. When we landed, there was a message from Thomas Brennan on my phone. The paperwork had been finalized. The beach house was officially mine. The business transition would begin next month. There was also a text from an unknown number. Saw your story online. I'm a single mom too. Thank you for showing us it's possible to be enough. I smiled and put the phone away. Maya was stirring, looking around the airport with sleepy eyes. Are we home, Mommy? We're home. Good. I want to tell my friends about the penguins. I'm sure they'll love that. She took my hand as we walked toward baggage claim. Mommy? Yes. I think Grandpa was right about the table. What do you mean? He said the people they laugh at end up owning the table. And now you own the table. I squeezed her hand. We own the table, baby. And we get to decide who sits at it. She nodded, satisfied. I want to invite the nice people. That's exactly what we'll do. The office of Mitchell Construction still smells like coffee and sawdust, just like it did when I was a kid visiting Dad at work. But now there's a corner desk where I sit with my laptop, writing marketing copy and managing client communications while I learn the business from the ground up. Maya does her homework at the conference table after school, chattering with the foreman about their projects and drawing pictures of the houses they're building. She's become the office mascot, and watching these tough construction workers light up when she walks in reminds me daily why Dad trusted me with this legacy. Claire and I talk now, carefully and not often, but we talk. She's in therapy, working through what she calls a lifetime of measuring worth by the wrong metrics. She sent Maya a birthday card last month with a note that said, "I'm sorry I didn't see how special you were from the beginning. Mom comes for dinner once a week." She brings groceries and helps Maya with math homework and tells stories about Dad that I'd never heard before. She's trying in her way to rebuild bridges she burned without meaning to. The beach house in Cape Town is exactly what Dad intended it to be. A place to think, to write, to remember that there's a whole world beyond the small one we sometimes get trapped in. Maya and I spend every school holiday there, and I've started inviting other single moms to use it as a retreat. Last month, a woman from Atlanta finished her first novel while sitting on the deck, watching the penguins and feeling like anything was possible. I'm writing a book about second chances and found families and the difference between being valued and being valuable. It's the story I've been trying to tell my whole life, and finally having the time and space to tell it feels like coming home. But the best part isn't the money or the house or the business. The best part is watching Maya grow up knowing that she belongs exactly where she is. That she doesn't have to earn her place at the table. That she comes from people who show up, who stay standing, who love without conditions. The best part is knowing that I'm not the family disappointment anymore. I'm the family foundation. And foundations don't apologize for being strong. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt like the black sheep in your own family or the overlooked one, or if you found your own quiet strength in unexpected places and moments, please take a second to like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone, that their worth is not determined by others' opinions. Leave a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me about the person who finally stood up for you, or the moment you found your own powerful, authentic voice. I read every single word. And if you want more stories that speak directly to the heart, that make you pause and truly feel something, subscribe to the channel. We've got so many more tales of resilience, revelation, and redemption to share. Thanks for watching, thanks for caring, and most of all, thank you for listening.